Welcome, restless dreamer. You've just stepped into the shadows of sleep, where stories whisper and the darkness listens. I'm your guide tonight, your voice in the void, here to lead you gently into nightmares wrapped in lullabies. Before we begin, press like if you're brave enough, and subscribe for more midnight tales that blur the line between sleep and terror. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what hour has found you? Lucas Carver was the kind of guy who double-checked the locks at night, crossed the street when a stranger's footsteps followed too closely, and never ordered anything online without reading at least 20 reviews first. Which was why, when his best friend Evan started bragging about scoring VIP tickets to the sold-out Crowhammer concert, Lucas's first reaction wasn't excitement. It was suspicion. Crowhammer was one of the biggest metal bands in the country. Their upcoming tour had sold out in under an hour. Tickets were already going for thousands on resale sites. Evan, however, claimed he'd paid only $150 each. How? Lucas asked, raising an eyebrow. Evan grinned, leaning back in his chair. Let's just say I've got connections. Lucas narrowed his eyes. The dark web isn't connections. It's a fast track to getting robbed. Or worse. Evan waved him off. Relax. I found this guy on a private marketplace. Verified seller, 5-star reviews. He even sent me proof photos. Front row, man. Lucas wasn't convinced. Those reviews are probably fake. And who sells front row seats for a fraction of their value? But Evan wasn't listening. He was already picturing himself in the pit, headbanging with the band's lead singer practically spitting sweat in his face. The tickets were supposed to arrive within 5 days. By day 7, nothing had shown up. Evan sent the seller a message through whatever encrypted chat service he was using and got a reply almost immediately. Seller, delivery failed. I'll bring them myself. Be there tonight. Lucas read the message over Evan's shoulder and felt his stomach tighten. No way. You don't let some random dude from the dark web show up at your place. Evan shrugged. It's fine. He just wants to make sure I get them. Customer service. Lucas laughed bitterly. Customer service on the dark web? That's like saying your kidnapper gave you a blanket because he cares. But Evan wouldn't hear it. That evening, Lucas was at Evan's apartment when a knock came at the door. 3 heavy, deliberate thuds. Evan opened it before Lucas could stop him. The man standing there looked like every cliché of someone you shouldn't trust. Mid-40s, unshaven, wearing a faded leather jacket and mirrored sunglasses even though it was nearly dark outside. He held a white envelope in one hand and kept his other shoved deep in his pocket. Evan Marks? The man asked, his voice low. Evan nodded. The man smiled thinly. Got your tickets. But there's a mix-up. Only half of them are here. The others are in my car. Just need you to come with me for a second. Lucas's gaze flicked to the curb outside, where a black sedan idled. Its tinted windows reflected the streetlights, but in the back seat, behind the slight gap of glass, Lucas saw movement. A figure sat slouched, head tilted just enough for the faint glow of a phone screen to illuminate gloved hands resting on their lap. He felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. No, Lucas said firmly. You can hand them over here, or you can leave. The man's smile faltered. Can't. They're in the car. Lucas stepped forward, placing himself between the man and Evan. Then go get them. The man's jaw tightened. You really want to play this game? Behind him, the sedan's engine revved slightly. Evan hesitated, glancing between them. Lucas, it's fine. Lucas grabbed his arm. It's not fine. Something about the man's posture, the way his free hand never left his pocket, screamed, don't trust him. The man shifted his gaze to Evan and said, almost casually, be a shame if someone else got your tickets instead. Lucas pulled Evan back and slammed the door. They barely had time to lock it before the knocking started again. Harder this time, rattling the frame. Open the door, the man said from outside, his voice still low but sharper now. Don't make me come in there. Evan looked pale. Maybe we should... No, Lucas snapped. Call the cops. Before Evan could reach for his phone, A different voice joined in, muffled, from farther away. "Evan Marks. Lucas Carver." It was coming from the car. Lucas's blood ran cold. The banging stopped abruptly. Through the peephole, Lucas saw the man glance toward the street, then step away from the door. The sedan pulled forward a few feet, stopping directly in front of the building. For a moment, the rear window rolled down just enough for Lucas to see the ski mask. Then it rolled back up. Without another word, the man walked to the driver's side, climbed in, and the car pulled away. They didn't sleep that night. Every sound outside made them flinch. Lucas stayed on the couch, watching the street through the blinds until dawn. By morning, the car was gone, and Lucas convinced Evan to report everything to the police. The officers took notes, nodded, and promised to patrol the neighborhood, but Lucas could tell by their expressions they didn't expect to find anything. 2 days later, Lucas came out to his car and found something under the wiper blade, a single crowhammer ticket, front row. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands, and saw the words scrawled on the back in jagged black ink. "You forgot something." 3 nights later, Lucas woke to the sound of his phone buzzing on the nightstand. Unknown number. He answered without thinking. Static. Then, faintly, the same voice from the car. "Only 1 ticket left. We're coming to deliver it." The first time I saw it, I thought it was a glitch. It was 2:47 a.m., and I'd been deep in one of my insomnia-fueled coding sessions. The blue light from my monitor was the only illumination in my apartment, my desk cluttered with energy drink cans and empty takeout containers. My fingers ached from typing, but I wasn't ready to quit yet. The program I'd been writing was just a small side project, a way to crawl through obscure corners of the internet looking for unusual live feeds and camera loops. I had no idea why I built it. Maybe boredom, maybe curiosity. When a new window opened, I expected to see one of those endless warehouse security cams or some grainy footage of an empty parking lot. Instead, I was greeted by a dimly lit room. The screen flickered. The camera feed wasn't clean. There was static, distortion, faint lines of static tearing across the frame like scars. In the center of the shot sat a figure. The person was hunched forward in a chair, elbows on their knees, their face in shadow. Behind them, the walls were bare except for a single string of dying fairy lights blinking unevenly. A dozen old computer monitors lined the floor around them, each showing something different. At least, I assumed they were different, because the static kept swallowing the details. I almost closed it right then. I'd seen my share of weird surveillance feeds. Nothing really shocked me anymore, but something about this one made my pulse slow and heavy. Then one of the monitors in the background changed. I leaned closer to the screen. My brain took a moment to register what I was looking at. A live view of my apartment. Not just my apartment, my bedroom. The feed was from an angle I couldn't explain, as if the camera was hovering in the corner near the ceiling. I could see my unmade bed, the laundry piled in the corner, and the faint movement of my desk chair here in the living room. The figure didn't move at first. Then slowly, they turned their head toward their own monitor, the one showing me. I felt my mouth go dry. A text box appeared in the bottom corner of my own screen, the cursor blinking. A single sentence began to appear, letter by letter. "I'm already inside." I froze. My first thought was that it was some elaborate prank. I'd been active in online dev forums. Maybe someone had decided to mess with me. But the feed, the angle, how would they get that? I tried to close the window. Nothing happened. I yanked my mouse from its USB port. The cursor still moved. That's when I reached for my laptop and slammed the lid shut. I didn't care what progress I lost. I just needed it to stop. Sleep was impossible. Every sound seemed louder. The hum of my fridge, the faint creak of my floorboards as the building shifted. At some point, I convinced myself it was all in my head. A trick, a screen share prank, something explainable. I finally dozed off around 5 a.m., my bedroom light still on. When I woke, my phone had one new notification. New video saved, camera feed. I didn't remember setting my phone to record anything. My thumb hovered over the file, dread crawling through me. When I played it, I saw my own sleeping body, filmed from the same impossible ceiling angle. I dropped the phone. I worked from a cafe the next day, my laptop never leaving my backpack. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the video must have been recorded by me somehow. Some weird automation I'd forgotten to disable. By the time I got home that evening, the apartment was silent, the way I'd left it. No sign of anything disturbed. But when I turned on my computer, the same feed opened instantly. No loading, no command prompt. The figure was there again, still hunched in their chair, but now their head was tilted sharply to the side, as if they were studying me. Behind them, the monitors flickered again. This time, 2 of them showed my apartment. One was my bedroom. The other, I leaned in. The other was the kitchen. As I watched, something in my kitchen moved. I heard it too, the faint sound of a cabinet door closing. My breath locked in my chest. I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy wrench from my desk drawer, and crept toward the kitchen. The light was off. I flicked it on. Nothing. Every drawer and cabinet was closed. When I returned to my desk, the feed was gone. The sound in the walls. That night, it started. A faint scratching. At first, I thought it was my upstairs neighbor, but the sound was wrong. Too close. It came from the wall right behind my bed, slow and deliberate, like someone tracing their nails along the drywall. I moved to sleep on the couch, but at 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification. Live feed starting. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I turned the phone face down and tried to breathe through the pounding in my chest. Somewhere in the apartment, a floorboard creaked. The next morning I found something under my front door, a single Polaroid photograph. It showed me, at my desk, taken from behind. The lighting matched last night. My computer screen glowed in the photo, but the angle was wrong. The only way to take it would have been from inside the apartment. I called the building manager, trying to explain. He swore no one had access to my unit but me. I changed my locks anyway. That night, the feed returned. The figure was closer now. The camera pulled tight on their masked face. I could hear breathing through my speakers, slow, deliberate. Then the chat box appeared again. The locks don't matter. By day 4, I couldn't eat, couldn't think. Every noise felt intentional. My own home felt wrong, like the air had shifted, like there were corners I'd never noticed before. I decided I was leaving. I packed a duffel bag, stuffed my laptop inside without turning it on, and booked a cheap motel across town. That night, in the motel's cracked ceiling room, I finally opened my laptop to email a friend for help. The feed opened before I could type. The figure's background had changed. The monitors were gone. Behind them now was my motel room door. The figure tilted their head, listening to something I couldn't hear. Then, from the other side of my motel door, 3 slow knocks. I didn't open the door. I didn't move. I sat frozen until the sun came up. When I finally worked up the courage to check outside, the hallway was empty, but taped to the door was another Polaroid. This one was of me in the motel bed, taken while I was asleep. On the back, in neat block letters, was one word: closer. It's been 6 days. I've stopped using my laptop entirely. My phone stays powered off unless I'm making a call. I've moved again, somewhere rural, away from anyone who could know me. But last night, I heard it again, that scratching in the wall. And just now, as I'm writing this on borrowed paper in a borrowed room, I glanced at the window. There's a faint reflection on the glass, a dimly lit figure, and behind them, my own sleeping body. Claire Henley had been staring at her monitor for hours, the glow washing over the piles of mugs and snack wrappers littering her desk. Rain drummed against the window beside her, and the city beyond was a blur of distorted streetlights through the streaked glass. She wasn't working. She hadn't worked for hours. Instead, she was wandering, one obscure forum to another, scrolling through threads with titles like Unlisted Broadcasts and Cameras They Don't Want You to See. Most of it was dull. A parking lot cam somewhere in Poland, a cat cafe in Japan, a supposedly haunted elevator feed that was just grainy footage of a maintenance shaft. Then she saw it. The thread was titled, Live Survival. They win or they die. Her cursor hovered over the link. It was buried deep in a post chain, the original poster long gone. Dozens of comments underneath ranged from casual amusement to open disgust. Don't click if you want to sleep tonight, one read. They're not actors, another warned. Claire felt a pulse of unease, exactly the kind of unease that made her want to click more. She tapped the link, a black loading screen, a spinning, buffering icon. It took almost a full minute to load, the rain outside syncing with the rhythmic pulsing of the loading bar. When it finally resolved, she saw a warehouse, a vast, concrete space under bare, swinging bulbs. 2 cages sat in the center, each holding a figure, a man and a woman barefoot, clothes torn, faces pale with panic. Standing between them was a figure in a dark hood and an expressionless mask. The mask wasn't theatrical, no exaggerated grin or painted eyes, just a flat, blank surface with 2 eye holes, the kind you'd expect in some industrial safety manual. The voice that came through was distorted, mechanical. Trial 3. 1 leaves, 1 does not. A countdown appeared in the corner of the screen. 00:59. Crude weapons, rusted pipes, a short metal chain, were pushed toward the cages by a long stick. The chat exploded with text, hundreds of usernames streaming by. Some were placing bets, others were screaming instructions at the captives. A few just spammed emojis. Claire's mouth went dry. It was too real. The way the woman's hands shook as she reached for the pipe. The way the man glanced not at her but at the camera, eyes wet with pleading. She wanted to close the tab, but she didn't. Without thinking, she typed into the chat, "This is sick. Shut this down." Almost instantly, replies came in. "Newbie alert. Get out while you can. Too late now." The masked figure paused mid-step. Slowly, deliberately, they turned their head toward the camera. The warehouse went silent, except for the soft hum of static. Then the figure typed something into a console just out of frame. A line of text appeared in the chat from the account marked, "Host. Why would we shut down our most loyal audience member?" Claire frowned, fingers tightening on her keyboard. "I just found this. I'm reporting it." The figure tilted their head as if considering her words. There was a long pause. The other viewers filled the silence with emojis and question marks. Then, from host, "Claire Henley." She froze. Her real name. She never used it online. Not in forums, not in email addresses. "That's not me," she typed, her hands trembling. The distorted voice on the stream let out something that might have been a laugh. Low, mechanical, drawn out. The camera view shifted. The masked figure walked out of frame, and the feed cut to a new angle. A grainy shot of a porch. Her porch. The rain-slick welcome mat. The dent in the 3rd step. The exact sag in the railing she saw every morning. In the corner of the shot, a tiny red light blinked. A camera. Claire slammed her laptop shut so hard the hinge creaked. Her breathing was ragged. Every instinct screamed to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Finally, she grabbed her phone and called the only person she trusted enough to believe her. Mark, a friend since college. The one who'd driven across town at 2 a.m. when her car broke down. When he answered, she tried to explain, her words spilling out in a jumble. "Claire, it's probably a prank," he said, though his voice held an edge. "I'll come over. Don't open the door for anyone else." She nodded, even though he couldn't see her. While waiting, she stood at the peephole. Rain glistened in the parking lot. No movement. Then, faint, deliberate, footsteps. Slow, wet on wet. She held her breath. They stopped just outside her door. When she looked again through the peephole, there was nothing there. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message read, "Don't bother looking. I'm already closer than you think." When Mark knocked, she almost didn't answer. He stepped in, shaking rain from his jacket. "Okay, show me." Reluctantly, she opened the laptop. The moment it powered on, the stream was there. No browser, no login, just there. The warehouse was gone. Now the camera showed her apartment from a high corner above her bookshelf. Claire's stomach turned. "I don't even own a camera." Mark began checking the shelf, tapping the walls, looking for holes or devices. Nothing. On the stream, the masked figure stepped into frame, filling most of it. Slowly, they raised a gloved finger to the mouth of their mask, shushing. Claire's phone buzzed again. "One of you will leave tonight." The lights went out. The apartment was swallowed in darkness, save for the faint blue glow of her laptop screen. Mark's phone flashlight flicked on, casting jerky shadows on the walls. 3 knocks echoed from the door. Slow, even, then silence. On the laptop, the camera view switched to her own front door, this time from the outside. Rain streaked across the lens. The masked figure stepped into the shot, looking straight into the camera, then reached out to adjust it, the frame jolting as the image zoomed closer and closer to her door. Claire could barely breathe. Mark moved toward the door, but she grabbed his arm, shaking her head. The figure stopped inches from the lens. Then, with one slow movement, they leaned in until the screen was filled with black. Text replaced the feed. "Next trial begins in 60 seconds. The timer began to tick down. The camera cut to an overhead view of her living room, her and Mark standing frozen in the glow of his flashlight. Claire's eyes darted around the ceiling, searching for the camera. Nothing. The timer hit 30. A faint sound rose from somewhere inside the apartment, a dragging noise like something heavy being pulled across the floor. Mark swore under his breath, stepping toward the hallway. Claire's phone buzzed again. "Choose." The timer hit 10. The dragging sound stopped. Somewhere behind her, a new sound, soft, wet breathing. She turned. The feed went dark. In the chat, messages exploded. Finally, best one yet. Replay? The host's account posted one last message. Winner declared. The screen went black. Claire doesn't remember how she got out of the apartment that night. She remembers rain on her face, her bare feet slapping against the asphalt of the parking lot, Mark's voice shouting her name. She's in a motel now, 2 towns over, using a borrowed phone and a cheap prepaid laptop. But this morning, when she powered it on, the screen didn't show the desktop. It showed her motel bed. She was lying in it, asleep, until she sat up in real life, heart hammering, and on the stream in the corner of the frame, a tiny red light blinked. The rain hammered against the inn's front windows, rattling the glass in its frames. Evan glanced over his shoulder at the empty lobby. The woman's words echoed in his head. "You'll find it." He turned toward the hallway, his shoes sinking into an old red runner that stretched away into shadows. Along the wall hung framed paintings of the coast, waves frozen mid-crash, jagged rocks knifing up into the sky. Some of the canvases seemed damp, as if the ocean spray had reached them through the walls. The hallway branched in 2 directions. The left corridor ended in a glass door to the patio, blurred by sheets of rain. The right stretched longer, lined with closed doors, each bearing a black enamel number plate. 1, 2, 3. He counted them off, trailing his fingertips along the cool wallpaper. The numbers climbed to 7, and then stopped. At the end of the corridor was a blank expanse of wall. No more doors. Evan frowned. He glanced down at the key in his hand, its brass head catching the low light. He knocked on the nearest numbered door. 7. But no answer. A draft brushed past him, carrying the smell of salt and something stale. Then he saw it. A seam in the wallpaper, running vertically just before the wall's corner. It was so subtle he almost missed it. As he stepped closer, the seam widened, not in the paper, but in the wall itself. Slowly, impossibly, a door formed there. The wood swelled into existence, grain blooming from nothing. The tarnished brass knob gleamed faintly, and Evan's hand tightened on the key. It slid into the lock with a satisfying click. The room beyond was dim, lit only by a single table lamp on a desk. The walls were the first thing he noticed, not wallpaper, but covered floor to ceiling with framed photographs. Evan stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The storm outside became a muffled roar. The photos were crisp, high-quality shots, faces lit softly, heads on pillows, mouths slightly open, bodies slack in sleep. None of them looked posed. There were dozens, maybe more. He set his camera bag down on the bed, unable to tear his eyes from them. The subjects ranged from children to the elderly. Their bedding was all different. Cheap motel sheets, floral quilts, expensive white duvets. But in every photo their eyes were closed. His skin prickled. He told himself it was probably some eccentric art project. Maybe the owner was a photographer. But something about the expressions, the mouths hung open in ways that felt too natural, too vulnerable. Shaking off the unease, Evan unpacked his camera. He'd dry off, sleep, and head out in the morning. The bed was surprisingly comfortable. The steady hiss of rain and distant rumble of thunder lulled him toward sleep. He woke to breathing, not his own. It was slow, steady, and close. So close it could have been coming from the other side of the pillow. Evan's eyes shot open. The room was dark, the lamp off. He couldn't see the walls, but he knew the photographs were there, surrounding him in the blackness. The breathing continued, each exhale damp, as if it brushed against his cheek. He fumbled for his phone, but the screen refused to light. Dead. The breathing grew slower, deeper. He reached for the lamp. His fingers brushed the cool brass base, and the breathing stopped. The silence was worse. He switched on the light. The room was empty. Evan's chest tightened. His camera sat untouched on the desk, his bag zipped. He swung his legs off the bed and padded barefoot to the photographs. His gaze skated over them until it snagged on something new. The bottom corner of the wall now held another frame, this one containing a photograph of him. His head was turned slightly on the pillow, hair falling across his forehead, eyes closed. The shot was composed with perfect balance, the lighting intimate and soft. He staggered back. His hand shot to the door handle. It turned easily, but beyond it was not the hallway. It was another room. This one was smaller and colder. The walls here were bare except for a single mirror, tall and tarnished. Evan's reflection looked wrong. The lighting was dimmer than the room he stood in, and in the reflection, behind his shoulder, a figure loomed. It was tall, thin, and completely still. Its face was obscured by something. Cloth, maybe, or shadow. But he could make out the shape of a camera in its hands. He spun around. No one. When he looked back at the mirror, the figure was closer. The lens glinted. He bolted, pushing through the room's far door. He expected to find the hallway, but instead stumbled back into his own room. Only now, more frames lined the walls. The photographs were of him in this moment, turning his head, eyes wide, hand reaching for the knob. He grabbed his bag, heart slamming against his ribs. He yanked the door open again. This time, the hallway lay beyond. He ran. The lights flickered overhead. The carpeting squelched under his wet socks. The lobby was empty. The front door refused to budge. Behind him, the sound of a camera shutter clicked once, then again. He turned slowly. The woman from the desk stood halfway down the hall, holding an antique camera. Her smile was the same as before, fixed and cold. "You found it," she said. Evan backed away, but she stepped forward. The flash went off, blinding him. When his vision cleared, the inn was gone. He was standing on the edge of the cliff in the rain, the ocean roaring below. His bag was missing. The key was cold in his palm, and when he turned it over, it wasn't blank anymore. It bore a number, etched deep and fresh, matching the plaque above a door in the cliff face, half hidden by ivy. The door was open, warm light spilling out. From within came the sound of breathing and the slow, deliberate click of a camera. Eli Parker had always been curious about the strange corners of the internet. Not the polished social media feeds or cleanly coded websites, but the unlit digital basements, places where forgotten forums still clung to life, dusty chat rooms hummed with static, and usernames felt more like masks than identities. It was nearly 2 a.m., and his dorm room was quiet except for the hum of his laptop's fan. A stack of unfinished homework sat to his left, untouched. His roommate was gone for the weekend, leaving Eli in the glow of his monitor, free to wander deeper into the web than he ever had before. He told himself it was just boredom that led him there. A chain of obscure links from an urban legend thread brought him to what looked like an abandoned forum. Most of the posts were years old, conversations about haunted highways, cursed VHS tapes, and strange phone numbers that allegedly called back. Eli scrolled lazily until one post caught his attention. If you want something real, try this, but don't stay too long. Beneath it was a link, not a normal-looking one. It was long, clunky, and broken in places like it had been copied and pasted too many times. Eli hovered his cursor over it for a moment. He could hear his own pulse in his ears. His better judgment told him to click away, but curiosity won. The page took forever to load. When it finally did, there was no header, no menu, no design, just a black screen and a buffering icon. And then, video. At first, it looked like security camera footage. A dim basement room, bare concrete walls, a single hanging light bulb swaying slowly. There was a folding chair in the center, and someone was sitting in it. A girl, no older than 16, was bound at the wrists and ankles. Her head hung low, hair covering her face. Eli's stomach tightened. A live chat scrolled rapidly along the right side of the screen. The usernames were strange strings of numbers and symbols, and their messages were worse. User 459, cut her hair first. Shade King, no, make her read the letter. Anon 78, 10 credits says she screams in the first 2 minutes. It wasn't just a video, it was a live stream. Eli leaned closer. The girl's breathing was fast and shallow. Somewhere behind her in the shadows, movement. A figure emerged, tall, wearing a cracked porcelain mask. They circled the chair like a predator, deciding when to pounce. The chat went wild. Eli's mouth was dry. He didn't know whether to close the browser or call the police, but something in the back of his mind told him to wait. Maybe, just maybe, he could figure out where this was happening. The masked figure set a small tripod in front of the chair and clipped a microphone to the girl's shirt. Her face lifted just enough for the camera to catch the tear tracks on her cheeks. Eli froze. He knew her. Not well, but enough to be sure. Her name was Sarah Delaney. She'd been a grade below him in high school. Quiet, always sketching in the margins of her notebooks. 3 years ago, she'd vanished walking home from a football game. The police had ruled it a likely abduction, but with no leads, the trail had gone cold. Eli felt his skin crawl. The masked figure stepped behind her and began speaking in a distorted voice, words muffled by the mask. Eli couldn't make them out. The chat spammed requests, some offering money, others demanding specific actions. The figure nodded, as if acknowledging them. That's when Eli saw something even worse. The corner of the screen displayed a small red icon. Live. 4,821 viewers. Thousands of people were watching this. And now he was one of them. He snapped into action. Opening another browser tab, he searched for IP tracking tools, screenshotting the stream in case it went down. His fingers flew over the keys, heart pounding. He tried to pull the video's source code, searching for an address. It was masked by layers of rerouting, bouncing through different countries. Whoever was running this knew what they were doing. The masked figure left the frame for a moment. Sarah trembled in the chair, eyes darting toward the camera like she knew, hoped, someone was out there. The chat demanded more. The figure returned, holding a large envelope. They handed it to Sarah, who tried to push it away, but her bound wrists made it awkward. The masked figure forced it into her lap. Anon 31. Make her read it. Glass spine. Now. Sarah hesitated, then opened it with shaking fingers. A single piece of paper slid out. Her lips trembled as she read silently. And then she looked straight into the camera. Her mouth formed a single word. Help. Eli felt a cold rush up his spine. He grabbed his phone and dialed 911. The operator's calm voice grounded him enough to explain what he was seeing, giving them the screenshots and the strange URL. But halfway through his description, the operator interrupted him. Sir, stay calm. What's your full name and address? Eli gave it without thinking. The operator was silent for a beat. I need you to step away from the computer. Right now. Something in her tone wasn't right. Eli's eyes flicked back to the live stream. The screen had changed. The basement feed was gone. Now, the camera showed a hallway, dimly lit, narrow, the kind you'd find in an old apartment building. The feed moved slowly, almost like a person was walking with the camera. The chat was going wild again. Cut wire. It's starting. Blackloom. That's him. Eli's breathing grew shallow as he realized something was wrong. The hallway looked familiar. The scuffed wallpaper, the dent in the corner of the wall. It was his building. The camera feed reached a door at the end of the hallway. His door. Eli's chest tightened. He lunged for the door, locking the deadbolt. His phone slipped in his sweaty hand as he told the 911 operator what he was seeing. Her voice was firmer now. Sir, we already have officers on the way. Stay where you are. Do not open the door. On screen, the masked figure's gloved hand reached toward the doorknob. The camera angle dipped as if to listen. A loud knock echoed in Eli's apartment. Not from his speakers, from the real door. He stumbled back, nearly tripping over his chair. Eli! The voice came from outside. It was distorted, the same as in the basement feed. Another knock, louder. The chat on the live stream exploded. Wiremouth. Do it! User 459. Open up, Parker! They knew his name. The knocking stopped. Silence. Eli's heart hammered in the quiet. Then, on the feed, the camera turned, showing the stairwell at the end of the hall. Whoever was filming was leaving. The viewers flooded the chat with disappointment. The feed cut to black. Eli stared at the screen, hands shaking, until flashing lights painted the walls red and blue. Police pounded on his door, and he let them in. He showed them everything. The screenshots, the site, the chat logs. They took his laptop and asked him endless questions, but the stream never came back. The link went dead an hour later, and Sarah Delaney was never found. 2 nights later, Eli woke to a faint tapping at his window. His room was on the 3rd floor. He turned slowly toward the sound. Outside, pressed against the glass, was a cracked porcelain mask. Eli's throat locked. He couldn't scream, couldn't move. The mask tilted slightly, as though the figure was studying him. Its hollow eyes reflected the dim glow from his desk lamp. Then, slowly, it began to tap on the glass again. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. It took Eli a moment to recognize the rhythm. It was Morse code. He'd learned it years ago at summer camp. The pattern was simple, just 3 letters, R-U-N. Eli stumbled back from the window, his breath coming fast and shallow. He snatched his phone from the desk, dialing 911, but before the operator could answer, the tapping stopped. The mask was gone. He waited, heart pounding, eyes darting between the window and the door. Every creak of the building made his stomach twist. When the police arrived 10 minutes later, they found no footprints outside the window. No signs of forced entry. Nothing. It was as if no one had been there at all. But as they left, Eli's phone buzzed. A new email. No sender, no subject, just a single attachment. He opened it. It was a screenshot of the live stream from 2 nights ago. Sarah Delaney in the chair, eyes wide, staring straight at the camera. Only now, she was smiling, and taped to her shirt was a piece of paper with 2 words scrawled in black marker. You're next. Evan liked to think of himself as an explorer, just not the kind with boots and a compass. His adventures took place in dimly lit rooms, with the glow of a monitor as his lantern, and the vast, tangled labyrinth of the internet as his uncharted jungle. It was a Friday night, and as usual, he sat slouched in his chair, one leg tucked beneath him, empty cans of energy drink scattered like bullet casings on the desk. He had drifted from normal websites to stranger forums, then to anonymous boards, and finally into the murkier side of the web, where URLs weren't shared publicly, but quietly traded like whispered secrets. That's when he saw it. A post on an obscure message board. Live feed, no delay. You won't believe this. No description, no comments. Just a hyperlink and a timestamp showing it had been posted less than 5 minutes ago. Evan hovered over it for a second, half expecting it to be another gross prank video or one of those fake ghost cams streaming on a loop. But curiosity was his weakness. He clicked. The screen went black for a moment before a grainy video frame appeared. It was an empty hallway, long, narrow, lit by a single flickering bulb that swung gently as if a breeze passed through. The camera was fixed at one end, the other fading into shadows. A faint hum of electrical interference buzzed through his speakers. For a long moment, nothing happened. The stillness was almost hypnotic, the kind of stillness where your eyes start searching for movement that isn't there. Evan glanced at the player controls. There were none. No pause button, no seek bar, not even a visible source for the stream. He should have closed it. Instead, he leaned forward. 2 minutes in, something moved. From the darkness at the far end, a shadow detached itself from the wall. It stepped into the weak light, revealing the outline of a tall, thin figure in black clothing. The face was obscured, either by a hood or something smooth and featureless. The figure stopped in the center of the hallway. It stood there, motionless, facing the camera. Then, in a voice that sounded disturbingly clear despite the static, it said, "Hello, Evan." Evan's stomach lurched. He told himself it was coincidence, a lucky guess, maybe a common name. The figure tilted its head. "Yes, you. Don't pretend you can't hear me." Evan froze. This had to be a trick, some kind of interactive scare video, maybe pulling his name from his computer somehow. His rational mind scrambled for explanations, but his pulse was already racing. Without warning, the camera began to move. Not smoothly, but in jerky, deliberate motions, as if someone behind it was repositioning the tripod. It panned slowly to the left. The hallway vanished from frame, replaced by a wall lined with picture frames. Evan squinted, then felt the blood drain from his face. They were photos from his own apartment. Not just any photos. These were taken from odd angles, the kind you might snap while hiding, peeking from behind a doorway, or crouched beneath a desk. One showed his kitchen counter, complete with the dented coffee mug he'd used that morning. Another showed him sitting at his computer, hunched over, exactly as he was right now. The live stream continued panning until the last frame filled the screen. A photo of his bed, taken from the foot of it. He hadn't been in that bed alone in weeks. Evan's mouth went dry. He grabbed his mouse and moved to close the window, but the cursor didn't move. It was stuck. The figure stepped back into view. "Do you understand, Evan?" Evan didn't respond. "I'm here." His phone buzzed on the desk, the vibration loud in the otherwise silent room. With shaking hands, Evan picked it up. An unknown number had sent a single message. "Don't look behind you." His first instinct was to laugh, nervously, hollowly. It was too perfect, Too cliché. But his body didn't care about logic. Every nerve screamed at him to check. He didn't. Instead, he kept his eyes locked on the screen, where the figure had moved closer, so close its mask nearly touched the camera. "You're smart not to look." The stream crackled, and the video frame stuttered. For a second, the hallway disappeared, replaced by what looked like a dim, cluttered living room. His living room. Then it was gone, back to the hallway. Evan tried the keyboard again. Nothing. He reached for the power button. The computer stayed on. The figure's voice was quieter now, almost a whisper. "We'll meet soon." The stream went black. For a heartbeat, Evan thought it was over. Then his phone buzzed again. This time it was a picture. It was a live photo of him, sitting at his desk, taken from behind. He stood so fast his chair tipped over. His apartment felt different now, heavier, as though someone else was breathing the same air. He scanned the room. The closet door was cracked open an inch wider than he remembered. He didn't check it. Instead, he grabbed his keys, his wallet, his phone, and bolted for the door. Evan didn't go back that night. He slept, barely, in his car, parked in a 24-hour grocery lot. In the morning, he returned with the police. They searched the apartment. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. No evidence of anyone hiding there. But in his bedroom on the nightstand, they found something that hadn't been there before. A single printed photo of him sleeping, mouth slightly open, head turned toward the camera. The timestamp in the corner read 2:47 a.m. That was 2 nights ago. He hasn't touched his computer since. But sometimes when he walks into his apartment, he swears he hears a faint hum, like the buzz of electrical interference, coming from somewhere deep inside the walls. And every night, at exactly 2:47 a.m., his phone vibrates with a single text from the same unknown number. "Don't look behind you.